Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the January transfer window round-up show. We are going to be looking back on a very eventful transfer window where more leagues than one, it seems. Plenty of ins and outs. A manager's gone, a manager's come in. There's been a protest. There's a lot to go through, but what's gone on this January? I'm joined by Mike Richards from the Unholy Trinity Podcast. Welcome to the show, Mike. Let's get straight into it.
Yeah, of course, mate. It's been a really busy time, hasn't it? Absolutely sensational. Sort of 31 days, if you look, from shock and run of form to manager getting removed. Was it 5 players through the door? New manager comes in, new coach, obviously new backroom staff. Linked to Ashley Cole as well. Leighton Baines is in the fold still. It's just unbelievable at the moment the way things have moved so quickly in such a short space of time.
Shows what we could do as a club if we really got our act together, doesn't it? Like, we can make things happen. We've just got to have a bit more drive.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people will point towards the protest outside Goodison Park, obviously a week or so ago, especially when the name Vitor Pereira came up and he appears on Sky Sports News. That certainly ruffled a few feathers. Thrown into the mix, obviously, the issues surrounding the board and lack of communication and people wanting certain people removed. So yeah, I mean, it certainly shows that we can move into a decent direction. Hopefully the right direction. Obviously, time will tell whether that has been the case. But it's quite refreshing to feel positive for once after what's been a really difficult, maybe say 3 or 4 months, I'd say, since the form started to really dip.
Indeed, it's been a difficult couple of months. I was very rapidly falling out of love with the club, to be honest. And, like a lot of people have said, you just rope your back in, don't they? Like I say, it was only this time last month that we got beat off Brighton. It was a month ago today. Obviously, we lost that game to Brighton, and then, of course, Hull in the cup, and then Benitez was sacked after the Norwich game. It's been a really turbulent month. A real roller coaster for us as supporters, that's for sure.
It's been a total range of emotions, hasn't it? I was saying a few weeks ago myself, I think it was even post Villa, when obviously Benitez had been removed and we lost that game, and I was still feeling really low, thinking, what direction are we going to take? We can't seem to win a game. We can't help but concede silly goals. Every single goal that we tend to concede or have conceded recently seems to be down to ourselves and our inability to be able to defend properly and as a team and do the basics right. And it's been a really low time, as low as I can remember, that's for sure. Obviously, going back to sort of your mid-90s, when obviously Wimbledon was the main one, obviously Coventry as well a bit later. Those kind of times, and that's the fear that it's given me, is there's a serious fear there still is, that we're going to get sucked right into that bottom 3 and a real battle for relegation. The board had to act. There was no way that Benitez could have stayed in his role as manager. He'd done nothing for me to really address the slide in any way, shape, or form. He was making the same mistakes he was making months ago.
More rapid, I think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it just, whether it was his stubbornness, I don't know. Whether he just thought that, well, at some point it's going to click and the players will understand what I'm trying to do. But I think that, the mood amongst the camp, amongst the players, was rock bottom. Make no mistake about it. We all say about ourselves and how poor we felt and how negative we felt as a fan base. The players will feel it, of course they will. Whether if you don't win in games, which is what the players are paid to do, and some of them, you can argue the likes of Richarlison, Anthony Gordon, for example, Seamus Coleman, they've got a passion for the club. I know some can probably take it or leave it and can take football or leave it. There are some players like that, but there are some in that team, and it means a lot to them. So when we are losing games, I'm sure they find it difficult. I'm sure they sympathise and empathise with the fans as well. But it's been a real low point, and the board had to act, and thank God they have, and we can go into obviously Saturday with a bit more positivity.
Yeah, hopefully so. Of course, we're obviously coming off the back of a lot of change. We mentioned Benitez going, obviously the Villa game, which we lost under Duncan Ferguson's management. But I think you mentioned there the protest last week. I think that was a major turning point because I think I'll be quite fully honest with you, and I'm not a big advocate of spray painting rubbish on walls of Goodison. If we didn't protest, I think Pereira would be sitting here now in the dugout.
I think it's possible. I really do think it's possible. I think the board, as much as we obviously say Messier is certainly getting, potentially being led by his mate, Peter Action, who certainly all he will care about is lining his own pockets. So that deal for Vitor Pereira would have seen him earn a few quid, I'm sure. But the direction the club was taking was certainly to appoint him. They were, by all means, they were happy with what he presented in his interviews. And he seemed to be the man. I mean, did himself no favours at all by going onto Sky Sports News, and he came across as a little bit of a loose cannon, in my opinion, by doing that. It's something which is hugely backfired. If he thought it was a good idea, he couldn't have been any further from the truth, because Everton fans straight away, if anyone had any ounce of want or need him to become Everton manager, I think it all went within those sorts of 15, 20 minutes of him speaking live on obviously on Sky Sports News. So I think he showed himself up there. But yeah, I mean, his name's always thrown into the mix and has been for the last how many years. We always hear him mentioned.
He's left, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, of course. And, he says he's quite friendly with Bill Kenwright. I'm not surprised the number of times he's been interviewed over the years that he's friendly with Bill Kenwright. So it's one of them. I mean, if you look at it on paper, he was never the right man. If you look at what he's done in recent years, he had 2 stints at Fenerbahce, got relegated with 1860 Munich when he was brought in to try and do a similar job to what he would be asked to do at Everton. So look at his recent history. Don't go over stuff that he's won, 10 years ago or what have you. Look at what he's done recently. Like Benitez, what has he done recently? Nothing. So there's no justification there for him to be anywhere near the interview table. So yeah, I think all roads were leading to Pereira. The fans took action, and it was strong action. To be fair, they have done it for a number of weeks now. And some of those problems haven't gone away because we've appointed a new manager, of course, but it shows you what the strength of a fan base can do when most are pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely. I think it's imperative that we as fans, get together in unison and demand better for the club. I think if we didn't, we'd be watching Vitor Pereira's team on the weekend, and I think we certainly wouldn't have 2 new faces in that I think have improved the squad. I'm not sure who we'd have seen Vitor Pereira bring in the final week of the window, but I don't think they'd have been as good players, and I really would have feared for our Premier League status if we were sitting here today talking about the next game with Vitor Pereira and his acquisitions in the squad and going ahead to the end of the season with that.
Almost definitely. There's no way he would have convinced both Donny van der Beek and Dele Alli to sign a deal with Everton. There's just no way. I think Frank Lampard's been instrumental in getting those 2 through the door. And like you say, if he got the job, who would they have brought in? Would they have increased the quality of the squad like these 2 lads, for me, clearly have? But also, even take that away, what would the atmosphere be like? Because imagine going to Goodison on Saturday against Brentford. Just imagine what it would be like, because it wouldn't have been like it is now, where we're trying to try and get more tickets for the game because Brentford haven't sold all theirs, which just been announced obviously recently that we have got a few more tickets available because of that. That wouldn't have been the case. I think you would have seen probably a half full Goodison Park, and those that would have been there would have been voicing the dissent at their appointments, and again impacts the players when you're trying to get out of obviously a potential relegation battle. Everyone's got to try and pull together. That appointment would have pulled everyone in a totally the wrong direction, and potentially could have seen us slip, as I say, slip right into that bottom 3.
Oh, definitely. I don't doubt that we would have been in serious trouble. And I mean, and like you say, we as fans do need to stick together and get behind the team. But I don't think there's been any defending that, and if fans were still protesting about the appointment afterwards, I don't think I'd blame them if it was Vitor Pereira. But thankfully, I think the protest that took place last week, I think, has very much helped influence proceedings since. I think we as fans have got to realise, I think that's living proof that we've got more of a voice than people think. And we need to make that heard more regularly. I think it's a man better for the club. And on this occasion, that protest has reaped its rewards. We've got a manager who I'm a lot more confident in. As a result of that, we've brought in some decent players. I'm not saying they're going to set the world alight, but the decent acquisitions, I think that'll help the team and get us. I think it'll be enough to keep us up. I think
most definitely, yeah. I think, in terms of staying up, you look at that extra bit of quality that's being brought in now, which, as I said just then, these two lads certainly bringing more quality to that Everton squad, and the mood lifted straight away. The players will respect the manager, I think, because of what he's done as a player. He's only retired recently as well. A lot of players, some of those players have played against him, so he's one of those figures who will demand respect straight away. And yeah, I think obviously we hope we've got too much quality. I think we will do. I think we will go on a bit of a run sooner rather than later, which will pull us away. The feel good factor, it's already back, obviously, but I think it'll be back in bucket loads over the next few weeks, and that's exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need, and I think that I'm excited to see where this side goes now and how we get set up under a different manager when we're not going to be asked to sit so deep and look to give up possession. The manager's going to want us to play football and have the ball and try and dictate play. When's the last time we went to Goodison Park and watched Everton dictate a game of football? Because I can't remember it.
They can't either. I think even under Ancelotti, I think he's talking earlier on in the season.
Yeah. Under Carlo, you go back to obviously the West Brom game, the Brighton games, things like that. Obviously behind
impressive displays at the start, but from there on in, I think there was a lot more dogged displays. I can't recall us really enjoying the footballer, and I think that's a really good thing to touch on. Obviously, we saw that in one of the videos we saw uploaded on Everton's Twitter account, which Frank Lampard telling the players to enjoy the ball. I don't think that's something that a lot of other managers have said to these players of because I haven't seen our team properly enjoy the ball probably since Martinez was manager.
You wonder. I mean, you've got to question. The players have gone so long without playing this perceived brand of football that we think he's going to play. As I say, judging by what we're seeing and by what Lampard tried to do with Derby and Chelsea, obviously different levels, both of them. But he likes his side to have the ball. You've got to hope that we can adapt to that because we've gone so long, like I just said, without playing that brand of football and being conservative and trying to be tight, if you like, and play on the counter for quite a while. The players have got to be quick to adapt and get used to his style of play. But it certainly looks good for the medium and long term future if he can bring that style of play in and get us playing some nice football. Because I think early on it's about winning games, isn't it? So he's got to find a style that we can play as a side where we haven't got to look fantastic, but we've got to be effective in what we do. It won't be as ultra defensive as what we've seen under Benitez. Probably won't be as open as what maybe we will be in maybe 2 years. But he's got to find a way for us to play and be effective and pick up points. So I'm intrigued to see, especially Saturday, because obviously we haven't got the lads who are all cup tied. So you've got 3 players there who can't come in because they're cup tied. So I'm intrigued to see what the lads who are available do, because they've got to prove a point. If they want to keep their position in that 11 and in that squad, you've got to go out there and prove that you're worthy of a spot, because you've got, especially obviously Dele Alli, Van der Beek, and even El Ghazi, he's certainly got more quality than some in that squad. You've got 3 lads there who are waiting and chomping at the bit to take your place in that side. So you've got to be on the game on Saturday. So I'm quite intrigued to see how they adapt and how Lampard sets us up.
Indeed, I think like you mentioned there, we will focus on the new faces. Obviously, the players who've come in and out. Obviously, a couple of outs. Luca Dean is obviously one that's a big disappointment to see him go. But at the same time, we did recoup a bit of money for the player who was 29. So on that note, it's maybe there is a silver lining to that. I think the other side of it is the players who've come in. I think Mikalenko, of course. A lot's been said about that conversation on the train, which is looking increasingly nonsensical with every passing minute. I like to think that he will come good. Him, I think he'll be a decent player. Patterson, very young, but very much the type of fullback I think we need. He seems quite tall, quite fast. I think nowadays your fullbacks have got to be athletes, and I think Nathan Patterson definitely seems like the type of player we needed.
Yeah, I mean, we said for a long time, haven't we, that we need to address the right back situation. Seamus Coleman's gone maybe 2 or 3 years longer as a first choice right back than really he should. So Nathan Patterson's exciting, from what we see in that under-23 game against Spurs. Obviously, assist for the goal, but the lad put his foot in. As you say, he's got that pace, hasn't he, to keep up with the attack and look to get involved, which is your modern day fullback. Under the previous manager, he wasn't asking our fullbacks to do that, which is one of the major reasons why Luca Dean was obviously moved on to Aston Villa. So yeah, Patterson's certainly exciting. The chances are we'll see more of him now, I think. We've got a manager now who likes to play youth if he can, give him an opportunity. And Patterson obviously been involved in first team training, of course he has. We've seen a bit of him on the training videos. And I think he'll get a chance. I can definitely see him starting at the weekend. I think he'll probably get the nod over Seamus Coleman. But yeah, he's the type of signing we should be making, as is Mikalenko. He's a young lad. Was he 22? I think he is.
22 Mikalenko, Matt Patterson's 20, is he?
I think Patrick is even younger, isn't he? I think he's 18, 19. Yeah. So we've got 2 young lads there in a position that we needed to address. I know we had Luca Dean, but you'd want to have someone behind Luca Dean who can come in. Ideally, you'd bring him in and he'd play. And then he'd obviously gradually introduce Mikalenko, not being the way. Obviously, Godfrey's played a little bit, Mikalenko's played a little bit. But give him time. He's come, and Patterson both come from lesser leagues. The leagues that they've come from are not as competitive. The quality of football is not as good as the Premier League. So both these lads need time, but I'm sure they'll be fine. Mikalenko, not Luca Dean, doesn't play the same style as Luca Dean. He's not an attacking fullback, but if you've got that bit of pace in front of him and you've got quality in front of him, which obviously I feel that we have, then it's not too much of an issue. But people just need to have patience with both those 2 lads and let them settle, give them time, and then over the next sort of 12 months, they'll then come into their own for me.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of young players. I think Frank Lampard will improve, but they're the 2 youngest acquisitions of the window, of course. The other 3 were, of course, the one you mentioned before, El Ghazi, which obviously came with a bit of controversy, but I actually think it might turn into a pretty decent loan. I think he's a better player than I think it's been clouded a bit by the whole Jarabchan involvement. Other than that, I think it's been a pretty smart. I wouldn't say smart, but I wouldn't complain about having him there. I think he's a decent player. I wouldn't sign him permanently, but I think he'll do a job.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's another body fit for those wide positions. Decent goal scoring record last season. Obviously, the bulk of those were penalties, which okay, but he should have put the ball in the back of the net. So he's not averse to scoring. So he's not going to do the squad any harm. Especially look at the injuries that we've had. 2 wide players this year. They've all from Richarlison to Andros Townsend and Mike. They've all had injuries at some point in the season. So he could be a vital squad player for the second half of the season, of course. So it's certainly I know it's one of those where you look at, he was brought in under the old regime under Rafael Benitez. But thinking about it, he didn't want him, did he, either? He didn't want him, to be honest with you. It was sort of, he was asked multiple times, he said no, and he still got him anyway. So it just shows you what's going on with the board and people who are making decisions. But no, he's not. For me, it's not a bad signing. On loan, not permanent, won't do us any harm at all. And we always need competition for places as well, which is now with the three we brought in. We've said, well, the five we brought in, we've certainly got that.
It's because Anwar El Ghazi couldn't really do much worse than Iwobi has this season. You've got Gordon there who's done really well. I think Gray's been good. I think Townsend will probably, obviously he's only on a 2-year deal. He's brought in mainly by Benitez. I think he'll be a player who may well be phased out anyway. Obviously, I think he'll probably stick around next season and then leave. So I think we're going to have to find long-term solutions. I mean, El Ghazi, there's some gaps to plug there. I think that I've got a lot of positions covered. The only position I think we let ourselves down in was the defensive midfield. I think that's the one position I think we might be a bit weak in. We brought in two attacking mids, of course, the other two being, obviously we revealed the first three off, but then obviously on deadline day we brought in Dele Alli and Van der Beek, both attacking mids. We didn't really bring in a defensive mid. There was rumours about Idrissa Gueye, but I don't know how much there was in that. Rumours about, there could have been some other midfielders out there we could have got. I think a defensive mid wouldn't have done us any harm, even if it was a loan or a bit of a midfield sitter or even a bruiser, just to cover us when Alan does pick up injuries from time to time. I think we could have done with some cover for him.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I know people are mentioning centre half, but I think we're a Washford centre half. We can argue about the quality of them, but we are a Washford centre half. So unless you start moving them out, which is difficult to do in January, you're not going to bring in any replacements. I know there was talk of a centre half on loan last minute on deadline. They didn't quite come off, but I think defensively, because of the way we've set up this season, they're under pressure every minute of every single game. And that's why I think at times we're seeing lapses in concentration, defensive mistakes, because they're having to be. And people are arguing they should be switched on all the time. I agree, they should be always switched on and concentrated. But when it's way after way with attacks and you're having to, you're giving up possession all the time, I get it why at times there's been lapses of concentration. The mood in the camp was poor. So they've been exposed, but likes of, Ben Godfrey's not a bad defender. Yeah, you mean when he's fit is our best centre half. Michael Keane at times has performed really well. Other times he's been awful. He's one of those players.
I've very much got my reservations about Michael Keane.
So have I. Michael Keane plays well. We know he plays well when we're asked to sort of sit, 2 or 3 yards deeper at a defensive line. That's what he did at Burnley. Lapped it up, long balls, being played from the opposing side, end ball out. That's Michael Keane's game. When you ask him to play a higher line against quick attackers, he's absolutely snookered, and he's never ever going to be good at that. So I've got reservations. I think in the summer he'll be moved on. But we've got enough to get
sense he will be, regardless. We speak of Luca Dean, obviously left. Michael Keane's 29 this year as well, so it might be a good time to cash in on him.
Yeah, you're not going to get. You're not going to get anywhere near sort of 20-25 mil for him, are we? That's the way it is. You're probably talking 10-11 million. Michael Keane, maybe back to Burnley, somewhere like that would suit him down to the ground for the back end of his career. But I think he'll be moved on. But I think you got Brandt waiting in the wings there. Holgate's been poor this season, but there's enough bodies there to get us through the end of the season. But defensive mid, yes, totally agree. I mean, we've seen Alan
out for the season.
Apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's obviously have been the main cover for Alan. I think in that role, Davis is out. Delph's always injured. Gbamin's record obviously speaks for itself. He's very, very unreliable. We really could have done with someone in on loan.
Was it round the ball? He was saying he thinks the Van der Beek's best position is actually sitting deeper. So whether we see him playing a slightly deeper role than what he's used to, because if you look at that squad, you'd argue that Dele Alli plays his best football just off the front man with him and Harry Kane. They were telepathic. He played just behind him. and it worked really well. So you want Dele Alli, if you're going to play a three in midfield, you want him at the top of the triangle, just behind the number 9, Dominic Lewin. So Van der Beek might be asked to play a bit deeper. It's going to be a lot's going to be put on Alan again. We think to be sitting deep. If you look at those training videos, it was a lot of work was done, wasn't it, around get the ball to number 6. So it was him for the weekend. It looked like him and Andre Gomez were operating in that midfield, but a lot was going through Alan as the number 6. Get the ball to him, and Sion obviously free up other players to then play out. But I think going forward, I think it will be him, Van der Beek, Dele Alli as a 3. Decore, when he comes back in, can quite easily replace Van der Beek or Dele Alli. They can rotate. That's the idea of having a squad with a little bit of quality, isn't it?
Indeed. So overall, like you say, we've got those 5 players in: Mikalenko, Patterson, El Ghazi, Dele Alli, and Donny van der Beek. Players out, we've had Luca Dean being the obvious one, but then I think a couple of little loaned out there. We had Lewis Warrington go to Tranmere from the youth team, Ellis Sims to Hearts. Ellis Sims has had a good start to his career with Hearts, to be fair. What do you make of those? I was discussing this with Paul on the live stream the other day, and we were both a bit disappointed with the nature of the clubs that were loaning players to, because we've got a bit of a higher calibre club for these players to maybe test themselves a bit higher up the leagues.
Yeah, I think Ellis Sims, we were always looking at the championship side, weren't we? Obviously, the issues with he should have been going to Derby was what the idea was. They got a transfer ban or transfer embargo and couldn't bring him in. Blackpool was mentioned again. Obviously, he successful at Blackpool. He went on loan there last season, didn't come off. Hearts came in for him and he went there. And I'm a little bit sceptical because I'd like to see him play his trade in a better quality league. Outside of Rangers and Celtic, you look at the sides below them, and are they championship quality? Probably the odd side is, but below sort of the top 4, probably not. So I'd like to see him in the championship. I think it's more competitive, but wasn't to be. I mean, as you say, he started well, got his first goal the other night. I thought he played well against Hibs as well in the last game. So he's done well. You just hope that he can replicate that when he comes back. He's got to at some point be given the opportunity at Everton if we deem him to be good enough. Now, whether he can prove that on loan in the Scottish Premiership, who knows? But like you say, I think the quality of loan has got to be right for these players. It's okay sending all these players out, but you've got to make sure that they're matched up to the player and they're going to get a lot out of it. The positive is he'll start week in, week out if he's fit. So expect to see him score, quite a few goals before the end of the season, which won't do him any harm. But like you say, it's always important to go to competitive sides and play competitive football. But it's a bit different with Lewis Warrington because he's a little bit younger, isn't he? He's done really well stepping up this season for obviously the 23s, and he's looked good every time I've seen him. His head's always on a swivel. He's looking to pick the ball up. He's very aware of what's around him. And again, playing competitive league football will be great for him. I know obviously Tranmere, not particularly high up the football chain, but we can stay local. And Tranmere are doing well. What are they, second in the league at the moment? They're right up there.
I mean, he's going into the sides in a good run of form and doing well at their level. I think we were under the impression, though, I think Paul in particular on the stream was quite disappointed about the fact that he was going down to League 2, maybe because we've got a League 1 side for him.
Yeah, possibly so. I mean, you could argue, Tranmere were in League 1 was it a couple of seasons ago, should have really done better last season. Tranmere a top League 2 side on the periphery of League 1, so it's not a bad load. It's certainly not. And it as I say, it may
Crawley or a sort of like bottom half side, is it?
No, it'll do the world of good. As I say, playing competitive football. Tranmere are looking to get promoted, so the pressure's on week in, week out to keep on picking up points because those leagues can change in 2 or 3 weeks. You can be flying high and sitting in the top 3, and then within 2 or 3 weeks you can be at the in 5th or 6th and on the edge of come out to the playoff positions. So it's one of those, isn't it, where you need to understand what he's going to get from it, and it's going to be competitive. The trying to get promoted, the pressure's on, so that'll do the world of good for me.
Hopefully so. Like overall, then of course, like I think we've gone through the majority of the big ones anyway. What would you rate our transfer window out of 10?
I'd probably go with a solid 7.5. I think if we bring in a number 6, then I think it goes to sort of 8.59. I think bonus points for getting rid of the manager, which that's definitely helped as well. But yeah, a solid 7.5. Still areas to be addressed. Remains to be seen. Obviously, how successful the 2 younger lads will be. Michalenko, probably the spotlight's on him a bit more because he's probably going to be thrust into the first team more often than not, because obviously we sold Luca Dean. But yeah, I think a good window. We've come out of it with more quality in the squad, more competition in the squad, and more importantly, a change of manager.
Indeed. So yeah, I'd go similar. I'd give us a 7 out of 10. A pretty solid window, not perfect like I say, but I think we'll have enough to get out of trouble, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. That's the aim. That's the main aim of Frank Lampard's first few months in the job, is to get us safe. That's the first thing, and then get us safe, and then let's start to build a side around a good young manager, who hopefully is here for a good few years.
Yeah, fingers crossed. So there you have it, guys. Let us know your opinions on the transfer window. Thanks for tuning in. Give us a comment, give this video a like, and subscribe for more content. And until next time, guys, thanks for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.